You leaving, bro? Perfect. No.
Yo.
What's up, bro?
Oh yeah. Nah, what you call it? I'll be right back.
No, está bien. I just had to restart because my sound. Pero está bien. Later we'll play.
Oh, you gotta restart your whole thing?
No, I already restarted.
Oh yeah, nah. I'm just gonna step away from the game real fast. Go to the living room real quick. I don't know. This little girl got Rosa's phone. Oh, it's on talk to text, so it's picking up everything I'm saying. That is hilarious. Your daughter hit the talk to text feature or some shit. And it was recording everything. I don't know what she can do. I'm gonna eat real quick because I finished the food.
Toto, bro?
Right
No?
back.
Yeah, we'll play when you get back.
Alright.
Oh boy.
This terrible puzzle that confronted me and many other people about how it was that human beings got themselves in such a tangle about what they believed. Such a tangle that we were pointing the ultimate weapons of destruction at one another, which, by the way, we are still doing. And I thought, okay, well, I understand that. We need their belief systems. They orient us. And that means there will be conflict between belief systems, and that can be a catastrophe, and that's being played out everywhere again in very many ways. What's the solution to that? Well, one possibility is there's no solution. It's just mayhem all the way around. Could be the case. But it seemed to me, as I delved into it, that the proper solution to that was to live properly as an individual, because you're more powerful than you think. Way more powerful than you think. I mean, God only knows what you are in the final analysis. You're blind to your own weaknesses, but you're also blind to your own strengths. And so then I think, well, if you've got your act together, it'd be better for you, and instantly it would be better for your family, assuming they want you to get your act together, and not everyone does, and then it would be better for the community. It's like, how far could you take that? If you stopped wasting time, and if you stopped lying, if you oriented yourself to the highest possible good that you could conceive of, and you committed to that, how much good could you do? Well, I would say, why don't you find out? So that's what I think you should do. You should find out. You don't have anything better to do. And there's nothing in it, as far as I've been able to tell, there's nothing in it but good. So maybe you could sort yourself out so that you wanted nothing but the good. And then maybe you could help make that manifest in the world. And maybe we wouldn't have all these terrible problems then. At least we'd have fewer of them, and that would be a start. So it's the answer to the problem of humanity is the integrity of the individual. That's the answer. So, and states that are predicated on that realization are healthy. So, and states that aren't are doomed to stagnation and catastrophic collapse. And personalities that are predicated on self-tyranny and the tyranny of others are doomed to collapse. So, and then you think, well, what's the barrier? And the barrier is, are you willing to accept the responsibility? And part of the answer to that is, reduce the damn responsibility until it's tolerable. You don't have to fix everything at once. You could just start by fixing the things that you could fix. You know, you could even do it more. You could do it with even less self-sacrifice. You could start by fixing only the things that you want to fix. God, you can get a massive way that way. So do it. See what happens. That's what you should have been taught in university right from the beginning. It's like, aim at the highest good. Tool yourself into something that can attain it. And go out there and manifest it in the world. And everything that comes your way will be a blessing. And so all you have to do is give up your resentment and your hatred. I know that's a hard thing to give up because you have plenty of reason for it. The Future Altering Program asks you to write about 6 different dimensions of your life. So it asks you, first of all, to treat yourself as if you're someone that you want to help, and that someone that you love and take care of, and someone that you want to help. And then it asks you, well, if you could organize your life in the best possible manner, in keeping with those principles we discussed earlier, what do you want? What do you want for your career? Like, what do you want? What would make your life meaningful? What do you want for your career? What do you want for your family and from your family? What do you want for an intimate relationship? How are you going to take care of your mental and physical health? How are you going to handle drug and alcohol use? It asks you a series of fundamental questions like that to get your mind moving. And then it asks you to write for 15 minutes about what your life could be like 3 to 5 years in the future, if it was laid out like you were laying out a life for someone you deeply cared about. And so you're asked to write for 15 minutes about that without worrying too much about the structure of the argument or any grammatical niceties. That's put off for later. So that gives you a little heaven to aim for, right? It's like, wow, if I could have this, my life would be clearly worthwhile, even if I had to put up with a fair bit of suffering along the way. That's what we're trying to construct. And you can think about that as a heaven worth moving towards. And then the second part of the program asks you to write about what your life would be like 3 to 5 years down the road if all of your bad habits, nihilistic tendencies, and proclivity towards resentment and lack of desire to shoulder responsibility, all your weak points got the upper hand and just augured you into the ground. And everyone knows that. You know what you'd be like if you just let everything slide, and you know what particular hell you were ended up heading towards. And so the second part of the program asks you to write about what your life would be like 3 to 5 years down the road if everything just went to hell around you. And so that gives you a hell to avoid and a heaven to strive for. And you need both of those because that's what keeps you probably motivated in life. You see, the thing about disciplining someone, let's say, is that when you, and I see this very clearly when I'm talking to young people, is that I'm really on the side of the person that wants to do something positive with their life, to make their own life better, because I think that's where you should start. You should start by maximizing the quality of your own life. That's not a selfish thing, or if it is, it's the right kind of selfishness. And that you should figure out how to do that in a way that's of benefit to your friends and your family and your community, and you should take that deadly seriously. And the reason you should do that is because that just makes life better for everyone. And it reduces a fair bit of the misery that would otherwise be part and parcel of life, and it makes everything function smoothly. And one of the things I'm really curious about is what the world would be like if everybody decided to do that, because human beings are really remarkable creatures, and we hobble ourselves very badly with deception and resentment and revenge and the desire to make things worse and arrogance and all those sins, let's say, that make us deviate from our true path. And our true path should be something like, imagine the noblest aim that you can conceptualize and then sacrifice your life to attempting to attain it. And there's nothing in that that isn't good for everyone. And so, apart from the fact that it requires a lot of responsibility, I just can't see why everyone wouldn't do that. And when I'm talking to young people and shaking my finger and saying, grow the hell up and get mature and take on some responsibility, I'm not saying that because I'm an enemy of the person. I'm saying it because I'm the best friend of the part of them that would really like to walk in the light. And it's an invitation to walk in the light. And it would be remarkable. This is what we need to do, as far as I'm concerned, not only in the West, but in the world at large, but maybe in the West first, is we have to consciously decide that we're going to do everything we can as individuals to walk in the light, and to regard that as a noble and heroic endeavor, and to make that first and foremost in our lives. And that's what we should be educating young people to do, and they can do that. And so I have dozens of people writing to me and talking to me all the time who are saying the same thing. They're saying, look, I've really been trying to get my act together over the last 6 months. I've been trying not to lie, which is slightly different than trying to tell the truth, right? It's a more humble goal to not lie, because you can tell when you're lying, but you can't necessarily tell when you're telling the truth. And I've been coming up with a plan, and I've been trying to discipline myself, and I've been cleaning up my room, which is like a nice humble act that involves transforming chaos into order. And they write and say, God, things are just working out way better for me. It's like, whoa, do it, man. That's just, you keep that up for 15 years and you'd be unbeatable. And that's what we should be convincing young people to be, is to be unbeatable. And not because that's what they should do, or because they're bad if they don't, but because there's nothing better you can possibly do with your limited and suffering bound life than to aim high and sacrifice yourself to the attainment of those goals. Once you orient yourself, then you have an obligation, I would say an obligation to the development of your soul to speak the truth. You have to be oriented properly, though, because the truth is something that exists in service to an ideal of sorts. Then you can imagine that you could use your language two ways. You can use your language to manipulate the world and to extract from it what you want. So, for example, maybe you go on a date with someone and you decide that the end goal of the date is to have a sexual partner for the night, and then you can craft your language to manipulate the person into providing you with what you want. And that's like an instrumental use of language. But the problem with that, there's many problems with that, but one of them is that what if your idea about what you should want is wrong? Like maybe that's not the way to treat someone that you're on a date with, out on a date with. Maybe you're minimizing and reducing the interactions between you from what could be a healthy and elevated state of interaction and discourse to something that basically the pursuit of impulsive pleasure. And maybe that's not good for you next week and the week after and a month down the road. Maybe orienting yourself towards impulsive pleasure is a very bad idea. Remember what happens in Pinocchio. Pinocchio goes to Pleasure Island, and Pleasure Island is a place where impulsive pleasures can be had at a moment's notice. But what Pinocchio discovers, along with Jiminy Cricket, that Pleasure Island is run by masked totalitarians. They're all dressed in black, you remember, and they're turning the children and adolescents who are on Pleasure Island, they're depriving them of their voice, turning them into brain jackasses, and preparing to sell them as slaves to the salt mines. And so there's an implication in that story that the pursuit of impulsive pleasure is one route to totalitarianism and slavery, and I believe that. So perhaps orienting your language towards the gathering of impulsive pleasure is a misuse of your highest gift, the gift of logos, the gift of communication. The alternative is to orient yourself towards the highest good, as we already described, and then speak the truth. And you can tell when you're doing that, because But you can tell when you're not doing that, because if you're not telling the truth, if you're using someone else's words, you're being manipulated into a sense by forces that are behind the scenes. You're not using your own words. You're the puppet of an ideology or another thinker or your own impulsive desires. And you can tell when you're speaking like that because it makes you feel weak. It makes you feel weak and ashamed. And you can localize that feeling physiologically. If you listen to yourself talk, you can tell when you're speaking properly, you will experience a feeling of integration and strength. And when you're speaking in a deceitful or manipulative manner, you'll feel that you're starting to come apart at the seams. And what you need to do is practice only saying things that make you feel stronger. And you should educate yourself. And it's not that easy to do now because you have to find people who can actually tell you mostly what to read and maybe also how to write, because writing is a way of formulating your thoughts ever more precisely. That's why you go to university, to learn how to write. If you know how to write, you can think. If you can think and speak and communicate in writing, you're unbelievably powerful in the authority manner, because arguments move the world forward, and if your arguments are tight and well constructed and lucid and well edited and carefully thought through, and you have 5 rationales for everything that you're doing, which is what happens if you learn to write properly, then you're like a force of nature, man. No one can take you down.
Have you ever spent hours online shopping for an item you want? ModeSense is here to help you save.
Well, back to Fox News Alert. House lawmakers are calling for John Durham to testify on Capitol Hill next week after his scathing report found the FBI had no actual evidence to investigate former President Trump for colluding with Russia in 2016.
Brooke Singman has more details and an exclusive response from former President Trump. Brooke.
Hey, that's right, guys. Republicans now want special counsel John Durham to testify before Congress next week. Durham, after years of investigating, found the FBI had no evidence of collusion between former President Donald Trump and Russia when they opened their original investigation in 2016. Now, Durham's report reads in part, quote, the DOJ and FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law. Senior FBI personnel displayed a serious lack of analytical rigor towards the information that they received, especially information received from politically affiliated persons and entities. It also says CIA Director John Brennan briefed then President Barack Obama, then Vice President Joe Biden, and other top national security officials about a Hillary Clinton plan to tie Trump to Russia in July 2016. The report reads, quote, Russian intelligence analysis alleges that Hillary Clinton had approved a campaign to stir up a scandal against Donald Trump by tying him to Putin and the Russians' hacking of the DNC. The intel community does not know the accuracy of this allegation or the extent to which the Russian intelligence analysis may reflect exaggeration or fabrication. I spoke exclusively to former President Trump after Durham's report was released, and he says former FBI Director James Comey needs to be held accountable. He told me, quote, I and much more importantly, the American public have been victims of this long-running and treasonous charade started by the Democrats, started by Comey. There must be a heavy price to pay for putting our country through this. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan by the Democrats, started by Comey. There must be a heavy price to pay for putting our country through this. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan says the baseless allegations kicked off years of attacks on Trump. Listen.
In 2016, it was the Clinton campaign working with the FBI to go after President Trump and his election, his campaign. In 2020, it was 51 former CIA agents and intel officials working with the Biden campaign to do the same thing. So we've seen it twice now. One, it was the FBI. The second one, it was former intel officials, but the same objective, to go after President Trump and keep him from being president.
The FBI releasing a statement in response to the report saying, quote, the conduct that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. Now, Durham's report did not call for any wholesale changes to the FBI's guidelines and policies. Ashley, Todd.
Brooks Sigmund, thank you. Let's bring in Outkick host Tommy Leonard. Tommy, what's your big takeaway from this bombshell?
Well, I'll tell you this, I wish I was more surprised, but sadly I'm not. You know, I'm just an average person, Todd, but I feel like this is treason. I feel cheated. I feel like the American people have been lied to for years and years and years now, and that's because, ding, 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 we have. And you know, it really should terrify the American public, whether you're a Trump supporter or not. It should terrify you how terrified our intelligence agencies, our law enforcement agencies, the mainstream media is of Donald Trump. They are going out of their way for years now to try to take this man down, sabotage him, torpedo him, and it is absolutely mind-boggling to me that our law enforcement, our intelligence agencies are working on behalf of the Democrat Party and not the American people. This is an absolute and utter outrage, and as Congressman Jim Jordan correctly laid out, in 2016, you had Russia, Russia, Russia. That lasted through the entirety of President Trump's first term. Then in 2020, you have the Hunter Biden laptop cover-up. What is it going to be for 2024? I quite frankly shudder at the thought. Can the American people finally just get the truth and be allowed to make a decision on an election based on the actual facts on the ground, the policies, and the candidates they have before them without the meddling of these agencies? I would sure hope so, but I don't know what trust we can have in these agencies at this point. The institutional rot is absolutely an abomination.
Yeah, no kidding. When you talk about the Bureau and these federal agencies, but, you know, what about the media? Because reporters on CNN and MSNBC, they seem to be very underwhelmed by Durham's new findings. Listen to this.
Is, you know, all hat, no cattle. Well, it's a big fat nothing. It was a failure and a suboptimal, I'll say, use of 4 years worth of resources.
This just reads like a huge waste of taxpayer money, I'm sorry. He basically, to me, copied and pasted or plagiarized from the OIG report.
What can we expect if Durham eventually winds up testifying up on Capitol Hill?
Theatrics, antics.
So, with the...
to give us the notification that the download was coming. And then it got to be item shop time and still no word from anyone. And then extremely late last night, all right, so everyone is still twiddling their thumbs and waiting on an update notification. As of this video, it's currently 5:30 p.m. we still do not have update notification. Alright, so everyone is still twiddling their thumbs and waiting on an update notification. As of this video, it's currently 5:30 p.m. We still do not have clarification as to whether the update is going to be tomorrow. However, we did get some information. It's just not regarding the update. And this is actually a huge change that's going to affect every single game mode. So the official Fortnite status Twitter account put this tweet out. They said, please note that with the launch of version 24.40, we will be vaulting the Trios team size in Battle Royale and Zero Build. For more details about what's coming in version 24.40, check out our blog here, and then they link the blog. So the blog they linked is something I already covered. It's all about the ranked game mode, which again, we're supposed to be getting in this next update, whenever it may be. Now, if you go back to the blog, they only added one single sentence. They put at the very bottom, May 16th, which is today, update, Trios Vault. Please note that the Trios mode will be vaulted in Battle Royale and Zero Build in version 24.40. So it says the same thing as it did in the tweet. They are vaulting Trios, and it's not just in ranked gameplay, it's for everything. So right now we have solos, duos, trios, and squads. After this update, Trios is gone for good. Now what's the explanation behind this? Nobody really knows. I've seen a lot of speculation out there, but they didn't actually come out and say, hey, we're vaulting Trios because, they just said, we're vaulting Trios, that's it. Now I've seen a lot of people say that they're vaulting Trios to help improve queue times. So obviously, a lot of people play Trios. If you eliminate that, they're going to migrate over to either solos, duos, or squads. With less core game modes to select from, obviously you'll get put into matches easier in solos, duos, and squads. Now some people are also speculating that this change of removing Trios will fix the bot issues. A lot of pros and streamers are complaining that there's too many bots in games. Now I don't mind bots. In my opinion, they're fun, easy eliminations. Of course, you get loot and build, you get materials from them as well. So it's always a nice pick-me-up. But some streamers are claiming that up to 75 to 80% of lobbies are bots. That means you're only seeing a handful of real players. I have never stumbled upon that. The most bots I've ever killed in a match is probably around 5 or 6. And that happens once in a blue moon. I usually see maybe 2, and then the rest are real players. But again, because they're vaulting Trios, maybe that will put more real players in the lobby and less bots. I'm really not sure. It's just very bizarre for them to remove a core game mode out of the blue with no warning whatsoever. We knew Arena was getting vaulted, but Trios? That's crazy. A lot of people love Trios. So now you'll either have to drop one of your players if you have a good trio, or pick up another one to make a good squad. But whenever the update arrives, Trios will be gone, presumably for good. So let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about that? Is this a good change or a bad change? In fact, if you had to pick one of the core game modes to be removed, which one would it be? I think Trios is the best one to remove out of the 4, just because it's easier to find a duo, it's easier to find a squad, and of course you can always play solo. But finding 2 other people to play with you, that's not always the easiest. So in that regard, I think they made a pretty solid choice. They removed what I assume is the weakest link. Anyway, I hope we find out why eventually that they're removing this. Regard?
Pods is your personal moving and storage team for moves across town or across the country.
Alright, so yesterday we had a pretty exciting day because we got word that Miles Morales is coming to Fortnite Battle Royale. In addition, there was supposed to be a huge downloadable update. The highlight of that update was, again, supposed to be the ranked game mode. They even advertised it here in the newsfeed. However, late last night they removed it from the newsfeed. As you can see, it's no longer here. There's 4 tabs, but nothing about the ranked game mode. And all it said before was May 16th, which of course is today. So everyone was waiting patiently for the official Fortnite status Twitter account to give us the notification that the download was coming. And then it got to be item shop time and still no word from anyone. And then extremely late last night, they finally made a tweet. So this is what they said. We will now be targeting May 17th for the release of version 24.40 alongside the newly announced grant. We'll provide another update with details about version 24.40's expected downtime.